The Hawk, the Hound, and the Butterfly. Chapter 7. Helios, Part 2. The grand tent that was the centre of the festival entertainment was packed tight with people. Helios walked in front of his sister and nephew, parting the crowd as they shuffled along at a snail's pace. They reached a grassy, roped-off area that surrounded a miniature theatre that was painted with red and white stripes and had draped green curtains pulled closed. "There's a spot right in front, Apollo. Off you go, quickly now, it's about to start." A high-pitched horn blared from behind the green curtains as Apollo ducked under the rope and wriggled his way in between two children, their eyes wide with anticipation as they stared at the little theatre. Selene and Helios moved to the back where the adults had congregated. "Helios, would you mind getting us an apple cider? The heat in here's made me a little thirsty." "My lady, you know I have to stay by your side." Selene tilted her head and smiled at him. "Brother, I think I'll be safe. It's just a puppet show." Selene shrugged her shoulders. Helios opened his mouth to explain, once again, his duty as her guard, when Mrs. Haig, who taught most of the noble children in Arcus their numbers, interrupted. He wondered how she looked exactly the same as when she taught him how to count as a boy. "Oh, Selene, it is wonderful to see you out here. Are you enjoying the festival?" "I most certainly am. What about yourself?" "Oh, yes, very much so. Are you here with your children?" Selene nodded. "Yes, Apollo's in front there." "Oh, he's been doing so well in his classes. I barely finished writing up the equations and he's gone through them all and finished." Mrs. Haig eyed Helios. "Nothing like his uncle, I assure you." Selene chuckled. "I best go get us a drink," Helios said, and began to walk off. "Thank you, brother. Do hurry back," Selene said. Helios turned and pulled a pained expression behind Mrs. Haig's back. Selene giggled into her hand. The closest bar was at the back of the tent, shaded by the willow trees just outside. The queue was so long it looped out the side and around the trees. Helios could still hear the high-pitched horn from the puppet show as he made it to the front of the line. "Hi there," a friendly voice said. The young woman behind the counter had her hair braided across her head, with little white flowers threaded through it. "You after one of those exotic wines the king brought in?" No," Helios said. "Just 2 mugs of cider, thanks." "Sure thing." The woman went over to the barrel, holding a mug beneath the tap, and turned it on. 3 drops of amber liquid fell into the mug. The young woman scrunched up her nose. "Looks like this one's all out. How about you enjoy some wine, while I go out the back and roll another one in?" The young woman pulled a bottle from under the counter and placed it beside a mug. He looked back over his shoulder towards where the puppet show was. "It's good. Just came in from Creo yesterday." A roar of laughter went up over at the puppet show. "All right, just one then." The young woman's face lit up. She popped the cork on the bottle. Red wine gushed out and sprayed onto her apron across her stomach. "Oh, rats," she said. She slipped off her apron, revealing the bright yellow dress she wore beneath it. The young woman poured the wine into the mug and left the bottle on the counter in front of Helios. "I'll leave this here with you." She smiled as she ducked out through the back of the tent. Helios took a sip from the mug. The young woman was right. It was good wine. A string band played an old song Helios used to sing when he was just a soldier. He whistled along, still remembering the ups and downs of the tune. The mug drained slowly at first, but then he went to take a sip, and it was gone. The open wine bottle sat on the counter, condensation forming around the label. One more couldn't hurt, and Helios didn't like to waste things, least of all expensive things. He gripped the bottle at the neck, took a swig, and filled up his mug. Helios's eyes grew heavy. They began to wander. At the nearest exit to the tent, he thought he saw a stream of smoke. A scream pierced through his wine-induced haze. Holes grew in the roof of the tent as fire burned through it. A crash behind him drew his attention. The young bartender woman had a tray of broken mugs at her feet. She looked down at an arrow protruding from her stomach. Her legs wobbled. Helios leapt over the counter, spilling wine and sending mugs flying. He caught her as she collapsed. Her cheeks had already grown cold. A red stain bloomed across her yellow dress. Helios laid her softly on the ground. There was nothing he could do for her, but he could still do his duty. Helios leapt back over the counter. His head felt light. Blurs of people ran in every direction as fire sprung up. He pushed forward, holding his forearm up like a shield and pushing debris aside with the other. Burning canvas flapped around him. The tent was collapsing. In the distance, Helios caught a gold flash. It had to be Selene. He cursed himself for leaving her. Screams and cries rang out as Helios kicked over burning chairs. "Selene!" he called out. Heads darted past. Helios scanned them for her golden hair. A hand gripped his arm. "Mrs. Haig?" He placed his hand on her shoulder. Her body was trembling. "Ma'am, have you seen Selene?" She looked up at him with confusion, as if she didn't recognize who he was. A break in the crowd formed, creating a clear path to the outside. Helios tightened his grip on the old woman. Her eyes widened as her mind focused, and she placed his face. "She went after the little one. Back there." Mrs. Haig motioned towards the puppet theatre. "You get out of here. Go to safety," Helios said, pushing her in the direction of the cleared path. Flames opened up a hole in the tent from above. Scraps of burning canvas floated all around. Ash rained down over Helios, stinging his eyes. He put his arm up to shield his face and waded through it all. "Selene!" Helios called. His voice was now hoarse, skin red and raw. Through the flames he spotted a flicker of golden hair hunched over on the ground. "Brother," Selene said, looking up at Helios. Tear tracks stained her face. The silver dress she wore was now red across her chest and shoulder. Helios put his arm around her waist and pulled her to her feet. She stumbled and coughed, so he put her back down. Selene grabbed his hand. "Helios, you must save Apollo." She pointed towards the stage. Helios started to shake his head. "My duty is to protect you first. I am your queen. You are to obey me first." She'd never spoken to him like that before. Her voice was fierce, the opposite of what her body was showing. Selene dug her nails into Helios's arm. He looked into her eyes. They were usually bright blue, but now they had deepened like the sky before a storm. "Please, Helios, you must save him. He is special. One day you'll see. You'll see like I do. He will save us all." She placed something in Helios's hand and folded his fingers over it. He couldn't tear his eyes away from hers. They were fixed on his. "Please, brother." "All right," he said. "Promise me." Helios nodded. "I promise, Selene." Her shoulders relaxed. She drew her hands back and clutched at her shoulder. Helios pulled Selene up with him to her feet. She leaned against a post to steady herself. "You start making your way back through there." Helios pointed in the direction he'd come. "The path clears to the outside. Head for the gates. Don't stop. Don't wait. Not for anything or anyone." Selene nodded, but she didn't seem to be listening to him. Her eyes had dulled and were staring off to the side. Helios frowned. "I'll see you at the gates, Selene." Selene sighed. "Selene?" "Thank you, brother," she said, a faraway smile across her face. She stumbled off in the direction Helios had pointed. Helios looked down at the palm of his hand. In it was Selene's necklace. Slowly and rhythmically, the wisps of gold light moved inside the crystal. Helios stared at it, forgetting his surroundings, hypnotized by the movement of the light. A crack thundered from above. Helios looked up as a support beam came tumbling towards him. He dove to the side as the beam crashed on the ground. Flaming splinters flew through the air and struck Helios across his back. He couldn't let it stop him. Helios wrapped the chain of the necklace around his wrist and tucked it into his sleeve. The tent was moments away from completely collapsing. Helios fumbled forward, sweat dripping into his eyes. "Apollo!" Helios shouted. The thick smoke coiled around his throat, choking his calls to his nephew. He found the miniature theatre. The red and white panels had fallen off of it, and the green curtains had disintegrated. A wooden jester lay at the bottom, its painted face charred away. Helios heard a whimper. Curled up in a ball under the roof of the miniature theatre was Apollo. Helios swooped the boy up into his arms. "Hello there, soldier," Helios said. Apollo looked up through watery blue eyes. "Let's get out of here." Helios tucked Apollo's head into his chest. He turned around and searched for an exit. An orange haze blanketed the tent. Smoke whipped around. A slight coolness brushed past his cheek. Wind. Helios followed it to the right, behind what was left of the puppet theatre. The flames had burned a small opening through the canvas. Helios adjusted his grip on Apollo and tore through the weakened canvas. They broke free, and Helios sucked in the cool night air. Behind him, flames billowed outwards, and sparks floated up into the night sky. Apollo clung round Helios's neck as he ran for the safety of the city gates. Helios should have been praised as a hero for saving the young prince. His efforts in saving the boy were more noble than any other that night, but the only thing the king of Arcadia loved more than being king had died that night, and the fault lay with Helios. 2 weeks after the fire, a week after the funeral, Helios came before a jury led by King Midas. He explained what had happened, leaving out a few points he thought were unimportant. They listened to him, some still clearly stricken by the horrors of the event. King Midas, however, was filled with a silent rage. Helios knew he was still grieving, because so was he. The king wanted someone to lay the blame on. Helios had already found that someone in himself. Helios finished his recall of the event. The members of the jury looked to the king, waiting for his response, and what their judgment should be. "You were supposed to protect her," the king said. "Yes, sire, but You were supposed to protect her. Instead, we pull her charred body from the ashes. She is the queen. I must do as she commands." "And did she command it?" "She did, my king." King Midas fell silent. The king eventually accepted what Helios did as just being a loyal servant, but truly, he knew he would need Helios for what was to be a long war with the Tecans. If Helios had known that day who Midas was going to lay the blame on for Selene's death, he would have shut his mouth and taken whatever punishment the king had given him. Apollo had not only lost his mother that day, but he'd also lost his father. Helios reached the final step at the top. The wine bottle he'd had emptied long ago. The doors to the surface creaked open, and Helios was met by moonlight. He patted his breast pocket and felt a bulge. Apollo was going to save everyone. There was a reason she made those her last words to him. Maybe it was time to start believing them. But Apollo needed faith in something else before he could find it within himself. Helios breathed in the night air and stumbled down the hill towards the stables.